Welcome back to Warehousing Unboxed, an IWLA podcast. Today we're unpacking a hot topic that's become very important to the efficiency and profitability of the modern 3PL operation, Parcel. Plus, hear from two IWLA members and experts in Parcel about their biggest challenges, customer expectations, and strategies to keep a thriving Parcel program going. So, what exactly is Parcel? Well, at its core, parcel shipping involves the transportation of lighter, smaller boxed items, typically weighing 100 pounds or less. These are packages and items that can be moved without special equipment, making them ideal for everything from single shipment to multiple small packages. This makes Parcel not just a convenience, but a critical function of today's fast-paced e-commerce-driven world. Why is parcel shipping so important to 3PL warehouses? The answer lies in the dramatic shift in consumer behavior and the relentless growth of e-commerce in recent years. With customers expecting faster delivery times and more flexibility in their shipping options, the demand for efficient, cost-effective parcel shipping has never been higher. For 3PLs, that means that mastering parcel logistics is no longer an option, it's essential. Let's talk about the effects of parcel shipping on 3PL operations. First and foremost, parcel shipping directly impacts customer satisfaction. The ability to deliver smaller packages quickly and reliably can make or break the customer experience. In a world where next day and even same-day delivery is becoming the norm, 3PL warehouses need to ensure their parcel operations are streamlined and efficient to keep pace with customer expectations. The financial implications of parcel shipping are also significant. From negotiating carrier rates to managing shipping costs, parcel shipping can either drive profitability or become a major expense. The challenge for 3PLs is to optimize their parcel shipping process to minimize costs while maximizing speed and reliability. This includes everything from choosing the right carriers and services to implementing technology that automates and tracks shipments in real time. Another critical aspect is scalability. As e-commerce continues to grow, 3PL warehouses must prepare to handle increasing volumes of parcel shipments. This means having the right infrastructure, technology, and processes in place to manage surges in demand, especially during peak season. But again, don't take our word for it. Let's talk parcel with the experts. In today's episode, we're going to explore all these aspects and more with two IWLA members who have extensive experience in the world of parcel shipping. Please enjoy Mike DeFabis, CRO for IDS Fulfillment, and Kobe Nilsson, CEO and co-founder of Enveo. But first, a word from our sponsor, Enveo. Enveo is the industry's most trusted provider of logistics data management, visibility, and shipping optimization software, helping 3PLs of all sizes move their logistics forward through data-driven technology. Leading 3PLs including NFI, Kenco, Geodis, Saddle Creek Logistics, IDS Fulfillment, and more put their trust in Enveo to streamline operations, scale revenue, and optimize the shipment lifecycle from order through delivery. Bring the #1 data plus technology solution to your operations and connect with the Enveo team at www.enveo.com.
Hello, and welcome back to Warehousing Unboxed, Navigating the Parcel Landscape. My name is Angela Moore, and I am the Education Specialist here at IWLA. And with us, we have Mike DeFabis and Kobe Nilsson. If both of you could just tell me about you. Can you give a brief summary of your career history?
Yeah, sure. So I am Mike DeFabis. I am the Chief Revenue Officer here at IDS Fulfillment. We are based here in Indianapolis, Indiana, or just outside of Indianapolis in Plainfield, Indiana, with facilities here in the Indianapolis area, plus in Salt Lake City, Utah, and recently just signed a new lease in the Atlanta, Georgia area. So exciting growth for our company there. I've been in the business for about 15 years, heading up our parcel and sales side of things. Really, after I graduated college, did not think that parcel would be something that I would be an expert at, and still don't think that I'm an expert at, but it is something that is very passionate about. So I'm excited to share some of the new and upcoming things that are going on with the parcel landscape.
Yeah, I'm Kobe Nilsson, CEO and co-founder of Enveo. At Enveo, we help organizations who ship at volumes understand what's happening, intelligently orchestrate and manage their supply chain. In terms of my background, I spent my entire career in technology, but I'm a psych major who somehow found his way into computer science related fields. I spent a lot of time at Hewlett Packard, then some time at a startup called Omniture that pioneered digital marketing, web analytics, and parlayed some of that knowledge around data and using data to optimize a business into and focus it into the supply chain realm. And that's how we came to be here. And so, like Mike, super excited about boxes and how they move throughout the supply chain. But yeah, I wouldn't have predicted being here.
Great. Welcome, both of you. So let's start talking about parcel. What do you identify as some of the more significant challenges when it comes to shipping parcel?
So from a technology standpoint, we're still talking about the same things we've been talking about for well over a decade, right? Data and integration. So managing data, getting it together, integrating all these disparate systems and making it all work harmoniously, right? Working together. So leveraging the information that you have to drive efficiency throughout the operation. In terms of the broader landscape, a lot of things have changed, right? Carriers, regionals have cropped up. Some of the major ones have pulled back some things, and we probably talk a little bit about what's happened there with Pitney Bowes recently. And so there's just a lot of disruption. We survived COVID, right? But the supply chain really is only finally correcting from those inflated volumes and the infrastructure that was built out there. So this one question there's a lot to talk about, and folks in this space have a lot of challenges they're dealing with.
Yeah, just to echo on that, one of the biggest things is technology. You've got to have the technology. The biggest thing is we got to ensure to our customers as a fulfillment center, as a 3PL, that we're shipping packages the correct method, the correct service, the correct carrier every single time, that are meeting the transit requirements that our customers need. And there's a lot of intricacies that go into that, especially when you're shipping domestically to internationally, and ensuring that you have the technology to make sure that happens every single time is really key. Plus, on top of that, outside of the technology, the landscape changes all the time. Carriers are implementing new surcharges. The United States Postal Service is changing the way that they're doing business, and new shipping methods are coming out, and you feel regional carriers are implementing and starting up and growing. It just makes it difficult to have your finger on the pulse of everything that's going on. And it's to the point where if it's a significant piece of your business, you really have to have people that are dedicated to understanding that, so that you are up on the latest trends and what's happening to stay ahead of that for your customers.
Great. And Mike, you hit on a few different challenges there, so we'll be able to kind of branch those out and talk about them individually. So talking about those customer expectations, how have those evolved, especially over the past few years? How have those evolving customer expectations impacted parcel delivery landscape? What kind of trends are we observing in that area?
Yeah, and it is, I would say, in 2014, 2015, 2013, around that time frame, when Amazon was really at the forefront of the 2-day delivery method and getting the product to the customer as quickly as possible. That was a huge challenge for a lot of fulfillment companies to try to compete with what Amazon was doing and really try to stay ahead of that for our customers. And transit time was a huge piece of that conversation. As it's evolved, pricing has just continued to go up. And eventually there hits that breaking point where cost begins to outweigh the benefits of transit. And I think we saw through COVID and that spike in volume that really it was focused on driving cost down. And that's where a lot of, I think, mail consolidators and some other low cost providers were able to come in and scoop up some of that low hanging fruit. And those conversations were around how can we keep costs down? I see today customers still want costs down, but they want that service level that is going to delight their customers and get that there. Now, it may not be necessarily a 2-day kind of delivery time, which is still, I think, what everyone's doing. But I feel like our customers are still willing to sacrifice a little bit of transit time in order to meet those cost savings and help their bottom line, which, as inflation has really been a big piece of this, as anyone knows, shipping costs are the biggest expense right behind the cost of goods and for a lot of these e-commerce companies. And to keep that, if you can save a few pennies or a few dollars on that shipping cost, it really impacts the bottom line.
Yeah, Amazon created that entitled consumer, which most of us are. And we have that unrealistic expectation because we want it within 2 days and we don't want to pay for it. To Mike's point, just trying to keep up with that, something had to break at some point. I don't know if it's completely broken yet. Everybody's still chasing it. But one thing that I did see kind of change with COVID is you were given a little grace for communicating. Right? If you were going to be a day later, as long as you let the customer know, they were like, yeah, man, the whole supply chain's broken right now. Okay, I can give you that because you told me that. The customer expectations are still high. We still are a very entitled society and we want our stuff and we want it quickly. And that may be the difference in placing the order. But you've also seen Amazon roll some of that back. How much of their stuff is Prime, for example, which was always 2-day? How many orders have you placed recently where Prime was more than 2 days? There's quite a few, I'm sure. It's just the landscape will always evolve, but the expectations of the customer, they kind of have to mirror that in order for organizations to really find the relief they need to make those profitability adjustments.
Yeah. And one of the other things, Kobe and we were talking before we came on the podcast here of what USPS is really big at the forefront of making some recent changes here, and they're evolving that could really break up the landscape of how parcel business is being done with what the Postmaster General DeJoy has come out with, really increasing pricing and really putting an emphasis on trying to make the post office or the United States Postal Service a profitable business. And that's caused costs to go up. They want to handle more packages. They want to utilize their entire network to its full capacity. And that's put pressure on mail consolidators where they're no longer able to drop into the DUs and are being forced to drop into the SEF levels, allowing for the USPS to do more of that work and more of that handholding of that package through their network. They're also, I see it coming, Kobe, I think you see it coming, where there's a possibility that it could eliminate the under 1 pound pricing, which would have a huge impact on a lot of companies that are shipping smaller products that utilize that ground advantage kind of network there, or that service for under 1 pound to get those reduced costs. And that could have a trickle effect all the way up through a lot of people who make viable businesses shipping product through the postal network as mail consolidators.
And impact the other carriers, because it's not just the end consumers that leverage, or the shippers, that leverage those aggressively priced economical services through the post office. It's these bigger shippers. And so that handoff, that going away, is driving up their costs too, because when they had a set price for that on that last mile or whatever it was that they'd agreed to, they could offer more aggressive pricing up front and take some of that volume. But that's all in flux now.
So more to come on that.
So we're talking about carriers now. So what kind of key criteria should be considered when you are selecting a carrier for your parcel shipping operations?
Mutual fit. So it's like anything in any business. It's not all partners are the right partners. And it's not their fault. It's because they specialize in certain areas. So I think from the shipper standpoint, understanding what you ship, how you need to ship it, the areas you service, so where are your end consumers, where are your end customers at? All of those things matter because carriers have networks that have strength in certain functions, certain services, and certain regions. So you absolutely need to be able to get an understanding of that. Technology is a huge help in getting your arms around that, and then doing some of that matchmaking and that analysis or modeling to determine, hey, is this the right fit for me? Not just from a cost standpoint, but my customers have expectations for when those items should get there. Are they really strong in the Midwest? Are they really weak in the East Coast? And so that's where diversity and other things creep in too. All of those things become critical, but just having the means to measure and determine mutual fit, I think, is really important.
Yeah. I think a lot of it also depends on the size of your business and how many parcel shipments you're sending out, right? You want to initially probably start with somebody like a FedEx, UPS, United States Postal Service for your volumes, depending on how much volume you can leverage with an individual carrier is going to be big. That always determines the pricing that you're going to probably get from those carriers. Is if you can run significant amount of volume through a single carrier, you're going to get reduced pricing. Now, as your volume grows and you start to be able to leverage multiple carriers, you're going to want to have, I always say, as much ammo as you can within your network of carriers. So that means for businesses to look at somebody that is maybe, a UPS or a FedEx, one of those two major carriers to start with, and then you're implementing some other services within those carriers. Then you're adding in a United States Postal Service, you're adding in some mail consolidators and starting to look at regional carriers. But just being able to have as much ammo to go back to your customers and share with them a pricing metric or services and carriers that can meet their needs is always key for us. To IDS, we're agnostic to the carrier that our customers choose and want to use. We just want to make sure that carrier meets their transit needs, meets their cost needs, and gives them the information that their customers and that they expect to see, so that they can have that visibility. That's always key.
Okay, we've touched on some of the technologies and how that's changed the landscape, but what emerging technologies are you observing that are revolutionizing the efficiency of parcel management?
Kobe's probably very much suited to answer this, but I'll take a first stab at it before he takes all the glory here. So the parcel technology, it is ever evolving. One of the biggest things that we see on that side is, again, when I go back to shipping it the correct method every single time for your customers that meet your customers' needs. There's the technology that plays a huge role in that, the manifesting software on the front end to be able to generate that label, do rate shopping, do any of the for international shipping, the DDU, the DDP, the customs paperwork, doing all of that stuff, all the way down to then figuring out how to bill that package back to your customer and how you can effectively do that. That is key. But the next level of technology for us is really giving our customers the visibility into not only their spend, but also the visibility in the carriers that they're using, but also the visibility into packages that may be delayed or have issues, and being proactive in pushing that information to our customers and giving them the delivery times, giving them the transit times. The carriers have a lot of information. We want to be able to pull that information in and proactively push it to our customers so that they can ensure that they're not waiting on a customer to call them to say, hey, our package has been delivered, is lost, or it's damaged, or whatever. We're pulling that in from the carriers and being proactive and pushing that to their customers.
Revolutionizing is an interesting word, right? Because we're always looking for that next thing that's going to just change the entire landscape of the industry. And a few years ago, it was blockchain. And now it's AI. Everybody's talking about AI. But the reality, from my perspective, is we need to make incremental gains in areas that we're still talking about. I said this at the beginning of the discussion here. We're still talking about data and visibility, right? So the systems that I think are pushing this industry forward are those that can help with the visibility side, help give you the control, the intelligent orchestration, as Mike mentioned, to be able to deliver in an agile way, right? Based on conditions that are important to your customer or the audience that you're serving. And then finally, that communication proactively, like not reactively, when the customer calls you and says, hey, I didn't get this order. What's going on with it? You want to be able to say, hey, this thing's potentially delayed. There was an issue at the hub here. Or we got weather. We got a hurricane coming up the coast. So all of those are things where we've tried to focus our energy on the achievable. What are incremental technology gains that fill the gaps that we have today? Certainly AI is exciting and what that could do, but some of those things are so dependent on the openness of carriers and availability of information to be able to effectively leverage it. So it's what are the things that we can control today and the technologies we can implement and introduce that will drive the objectives of the shipper forward and in turn the entire industry and landscape.
Yeah, and you're talking about the visibility throughout the process. So what kind of strategies and tools do you use to employ to maintain that accurate real-time visibility throughout the whole parcel process?
Yeah, so there's two audiences, right? There's the organization that's shipping the item, and then there's the customer that's anxiously awaiting receipt on the other end. It's getting that data in. When the order comes through, it's shipped. Now you're getting statuses, you're getting tracking information. We have a solution, an alerting solution for this, where we're tracking all the milestones along the way, and you can trigger notifications externally to customers so they know what's happening. Hey, we got your order. Hey, it's shipped. It's out for delivery. Run home and get there before the porch pirates do. And ultimately, if there's an exception, hey, something's gone wrong. It'll be there tomorrow. So that proactivity that Mike was talking about is really important. But it begins with having a system that gets all that information in one place so that you can execute and communicate what's happening.
Yeah, and we as 3PLs have a lot of data. We have a lot of information for our customers, and being able to take that information and take that data and formulate it into something that is real and meaningful for our customers, whether that be transit times, whether that be spend. As we mentioned before, parcel spend is probably one of the biggest expenses right behind the cost of goods. And you want to be able to show your customer how you're performing, where their spend is going, what surcharges maybe with carriers are impacting that, how a trend over certain months by making carrier changes can maybe impact that spend and reduce spend and improve transit times and things like that. And that's all information that our customers are starving for and that we are trying to get in front of them as proactively as possible. And I think once you start to hit those kinds of milestones of being able to aggregate that data and then put it back into a meaningful way to our customers where they can digest that and make business decisions based on that is huge. And that's next level parcel right there.
Great. So we have a lot of diversity within our IWLA membership in terms of size and location, and not everyone is necessarily familiar with fulfillment and parcel operations. So for those businesses that are aiming to scale those operations, what steps and considerations should they prioritize?
Yeah. Parcel can be overwhelming. I think you're probably getting that as you make it through this podcast from Kobe and I, that your head may be spinning. You can get as complicated as you want to be, or you can keep it as simple as you can. The complexity there comes with challenges, right? So I always say, look at your size, your businesses, the customers that you're shipping for, and find ways that you can start simple and begin to grow that. Simple means getting somebody onto your own parcel account, negotiating with UPS, negotiating with FedEx or another carrier, and get some rates that you can then pass along to your customer, maybe add some margin onto those rates, but get them on your account and begin to build that volume. Then from there, implementing additional carriers, getting tools and technology that allow you to do some rate shopping and some customization for if a product is going with this weight in this zone, it goes this method, and keeping it simple at first and then utilizing some technology to give you some more complications in there. I shouldn't say complications, but some more systematic ways to automate that process of rate shopping.
And I would say, of course, you heard from the expert on that subject and Mike, but from a technology standpoint, just don't box yourself in. It's pretty easy to make short-term needs-based decisions on technology. And when we engage with organizations that have been around for a while, a lot of them have what we refer to as technical debt, meaning they've adopted systems that were good for that period of time, but they've outgrown them and now they're hamstrung by those systems. And it's look for technologies. Again, it may require a little more investigation, a little more investment up front to get on that path, but solutions that can scale and maybe partners that have not just one area of expertise or one solution that they're offering, because eventually you're going to want all of those systems talking to each other. And if you have a unified strategy and an approach where you've got maybe a partner that can address many of those areas, from visibility to testing to orchestration to communication with the customer, it sets you up for success and long-term scaling.
Yeah. And one more thing that I'll point out is we're all in this business to make money, and Parcel can be a great way to help make money by adding margin to that. And when you do that, don't overcomplicate this. Really, when you start adding a markup to the invoice or however you can, because if you try to get creative, and there are very creative ways that you can bill Parcel and get margin, but if you do it wrong, you can get upside down on that very quickly. And just, again, keep it simple to start with, and then add in the technology and the automation as that business grows to be able to automate a lot of that billing processes, a lot of the shipment processes, and really start to see that Parcel program takes off. It doesn't take long for that to be a very viable piece of business for any 3PL or organization out there.
And moving into the Parcel space, there's also returns. How do you handle returns efficiently, and what kind of impact does that have on the overall Parcel strategy that you're implementing?
Yeah, so returns are part of the business. I'm gonna pick on my wife for a second. I hope it doesn't get me voted off the podcast, but she'll order 3 different sizes online, right? And of the same thing, I'm like, you needed 3 of these? And she's had to try it on. And so I'm like, great. That's the world that Amazon's created because they have these free returns and stuff. But that has implications on the other side that your average consumer isn't thinking about. So as you go into business as either a shipper or a 3PL, that has to be part of what's accounted for. That some of that stuff is going to come back, it's going to be lost. And the main thing is like that SLA that going out is very different from the return SLA. So you want to get that back in the cheapest way possible, have technology that can process it as it arrives, certainly ways to generate labels so the consumer can drop it off to the nearest location. But yeah, that's a big problem that a lot of organizations are struggling with.
Yeah. And from my perspective, there's really 2 types of returns for a 3PL or for any business. There's the customer directed returns, which are the obvious ones, and I'll get into that. But then there's the undeliverable returns, and those returns that are coming back. And there's certain carriers will charge for a return package, other carriers that's already built in, and the return of that undeliverable will come back. So making sure that you're running some address validation on the back end to make sure that you're shipping it correctly so that you're limiting those undeliverable returns, and making sure that you have the correct endorsements on your packages to make sure that if you don't want those returns coming back to you, that they're getting destroyed and you're getting the notifications for those. And then the customer directed returns for us as a warehouse and 3PL, we really want to make sure we have the visibility of that return coming back to us. So that means that when an RMA number, a return merchant authorization number, is generated, we get that information. We understand what's in that package. Because sometimes it can get very sticky if a customer says, hey, I'm sending back 2 items and the 3PL only gets 1. It puts your customer, the 3PL's customer, the brand, in jeopardy of having a discrepancy with either the 3PL or their customer. Well, they're certainly not going to blame their customer. They'll end up blaming the 3PL for fulfillment company for missing a item in that box or something like that. So there's a lot of technology out there to help you process those returns as they come back, and taking pictures and doing different things and how you rework that product to get it back into inventory. There's just a ton of different things that you can do with returns and ensuring, like Kobe said, that making sure that you're using a carrier maybe that has the ability for the consumer to get that into their network, whether it's dropping it off at a UPS box or it's our retail office, or if it's the United States Postal Service, where it's just you're able to put it into your mailbox, making it very easy for that customer to return that package. That's key. I think our brands, you want to make it easy for the customer to return it, but not too easy to return it, so that they don't do that. Yeah, that's what I got.
Great. So can you share any of those best practices for managing those peak seasons or high volume periods in parcel shipping?
Yeah, we got peak season planning right now. It starts. It's I always like to describe it as the Super Bowl for warehouses and fulfillment companies. We plan our entire year to gear up to that. And the biggest thing with peak season and holiday from our standpoint is we as it's August now and getting ready for September here, we're planning for peak season already with our customers. And what that means right now is we're aligning the carriers and the shipping methods and what they're trying to do, making sure that we're testing those, going through, making sure that the cost savings that we were hoping for, or the cost that we were hoping for earlier in the year, are coming to fruition, making sure that the transit times and everything that they're wanting to meet their customers are meeting expectations, so that if we need to make any changes, we're doing that now, so that we're not doing that in November, in December, and trying to test certain programs or carriers out at this time, because we pretty much put those changes, and our customers agree, put those changes on lockdown. You don't want to be changing the playbook in the middle of the Super Bowl. The next thing is you really want to have those relationships with your carriers. Volumes are going to spike. We all know that. You want to make sure that you have pickups if you need additional pickups. You don't want to have a truck back up to your door with no pallet locations on there for you to load those packages, and that always sucks, and they're sit on your dock door for an extra day. That's not a good move for your customers. So have those relationships. Make sure that you have enough either drop trailers or pickups, or if you need additional pickups, communicating with your carriers, and then really communicating with your customers regarding volumes and how much volume you're going to have, so that you can, again, proactively share that with the carriers. Because if you're not proactively sharing it with the carriers, they're going to be reaching out to you and they're going to want it, and you're going to have to give them some ballpark estimates. But making sure that, again, you're having that communication with the carriers so that service levels are met through the peak season. And then if you have issues, make sure that you have a backup plan. If there's something happens with UPS, or you're seeing United States Postal Service backups, or FedEx, or whoever it might be, if they're having issues, that you can quickly make a pivot over to somebody else to ensure that those packages are still moving out the door. So yeah, those are the 3 or 4 things that really we're planning on our end.
Yeah, if there's seasonality to your business, you're definitely, as Mike said, you're planning for your Super Bowl. You better start planning long before it hits. And from a technology standpoint, you don't want to make decisions that will choke your operations. Any new decisions that you're introducing around that time of year, and then throughout the rest of the year, you want to be looking at ways to eliminate the potential choke points that were introduced through other technology decisions. Like, how do you remove some of the friction in the process and get systems that will ramp up and support what's coming? Because for our seasonal shippers, you'll have an idea, but you never know. You may have an item that's a hot product that holiday season and it blows the doors off. So you can anticipate a lot, and data will help you do that. Data will help you forecast and understand what the ebbs and flows might be, but there's always those unexpected things outside your control. So just making sure systemically you've got a plan A and a plan B.
And one of the more buzzwords going on nowadays is sustainability. So what kind of role does sustainability play in the parcel shipping strategy, and how are you able to address those environmental concerns that people might have?
Yeah, I'll start. I think sustainability and efficiency are completely linked. The idea behind being efficient is to remove and eliminate some waste. And for this to work 100%, though, it's certainly as shippers, as 3PLs, as technology providers, we have to have a focus on what can we do to eliminate waste and make sure you're not shipping a fishing pole in a coffin-sized box, and you're not shipping everything overnight if it can go on a truck or maybe an e-vehicle or something. But consumers also need to buy into this a little bit. And I've seen some things where some businesses have said, okay, pick your shipping method, and this is how many trees you save, right? By doing an economy mode. And so there's this kind of crowdsourced buy-in to sustainability initiatives that for certain brands, that's their following, and they have this responsibility that they're focused on, and environmental responsibility and sustainability. They kind of embrace that, and they can get away from, I should say, this 2-day entitled notion that some of us have. But it's really something that consumers have a lot of control over too. The brands, I don't think the brands, the shippers, the 3PLs can solve this 100% on their own. We need buy-in from the consumer.
Yeah. That's great points. And we work in IDS has sustainability initiatives within our four walls, and we can control a lot of things, but we're also at the mercy of a lot of our customers and what they want us to do with their packages and how they want them to ship and how they want them packaged and things like that. And if those begin to draw outside or have impacts on our sustainability initiatives, we try to bring that up with them. But there are carriers out there that, or all the carriers post, I think, their sustainability goals and what their KPIs on sustainability and things like that, and really just working with a carrier and finding carriers that their goals and their KPIs align with your sustainability initiatives and what you're trying to do, and being able to push that in front of customers, because there are a lot of companies out there and brands out there that are looking at sustainability. It is a big buzzword. It is something that is constantly being driven, and it's a common question that we get asked all the time, and being able to share them or direct them to places where regarding the carriers that you're presenting and their sustainability initiatives and why you're selecting them as a carrier as it relates to sustainability is something that we do. And I think it's just a small piece of a much larger picture of sustainability initiatives within warehousing and logistics.
Excellent. So any final thoughts as we wrap up our conversation about Parcel?
I think Kobe and I covered a lot, but that's probably just the surface of things. There's a lot more. Parcel can be overwhelming, but if you keep it simple, do things the right way. Kobe and I are also on LinkedIn. So if you have any questions or anything like that, hit us up there, where I'm always responding to messages and people reaching out. And I love success stories. For a lot of people, Parcel is just a small piece of their business and they're looking to grow that significantly. And I love hearing about how companies are growing that and how they're saving their customers money and how they're growing the fulfillment companies are growing their bottom line through some Parcel margin. And it's a lot of fun. There's technology, it's ever changing, and staying on top of that, I know it can make your head spin, but there's some great people out there and some great resources, especially through the IWLA, to really help you either launch that program or take your Parcel program to the next level. So
not to take away from anything Mike said, I just echo it. Great organizations. One of the things I love about Parcel is the collaborative nature of the folks who are in the trenches and in this space. Just to echo what Mike said, we're available. We'd love to have conversations with anybody. We learn from each and every conversation that we have, and we're actively trying to solution these things together. Is the fun part of what we do. Just appreciate the discussion. Always good to see Mike and learn from him, and great to be associated with IWLA.
Wonderful. Mike, Kobe, thank you so much for taking your time and coming here and talking about all things Parcel.
Thank you.
Thank you.